Friends, I told you that my partner would be here, and here he is. Didn't you expect him, did you? Now, he always shapes up. Now, why not let the folks themselves ask for something that they'd like to hear?
All right, what would they like to hear?
Something different. Now,
Okay.
is there anything special that you would like to hear us do?
Baseball.
No, wait a minute, friends. Let me see. It looks all right.
Okay, oh boy.
Now, we'll pretend, all right, now take it easy with that. We'll just pretend that we're organizing a baseball team here at the retired actor's home. And I am the manager. Now...
You're going to be the manager of the retired actors baseball team?
Yes.
I would like to join the retired actors baseball team.
Oh, you would?
And I would like to know some of the guys' names on the team, so if I want to play with them, I know them, and I meet them on the street or in the home here, I can say hello to them.
Oh, sure. But you know they give baseball players nowadays very peculiar names.
I know, a lot of funny names.
You know, like Sticky
names.
Fields.
Sticky Fields.
Goofy Dan.
Booby Barber.
Booby Barber.
I know all those.
Well, let's see now. We have on our team, we have who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third.
That's what I want to find out, the guy's names.
And
That's what I want to find out, the guy's names.
I'm telling you, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third.
Now, Abby, you going to be the manager of the baseball team?
Yes.
You know the guy's names?
Well, I should.
Well, then you tell me the guy's names on the baseball
I
team.
say, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third.
You ain't saying nothing to me yet. Go ahead and tell me.
I'm telling him.
You ain't said nothing yet. Go ahead and tell me.
Who's on first, what's on second, I don't know is on third.
You know the guy's names on the baseball team?
Yes.
Well, go ahead. Who's on first?
Yes.
I mean the guy's name.
Who?
The guy playing first.
Who?
The guy playing first base.
Who?
The guy on first base.
Who is on first?
What are you asking me for? I don't know.
Now, wait a minute,
I'm asking you who's on first.
That's his name.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
Who?
The guy on first.
That's it. That's his name.
Well, you ain't said nothing. I ain't asked you nothing.
You did.
You know the guy's name on first base?
Sure.
Well, then tell me the guy's name on first base.
Hi, you have to laugh at that. Welcome to It's Time to Talk Posidonia 2020 web series, co-sponsored by the Hellenic Short Sea Ship Owners Association and GANMAR Shipping and Prime Bunkersplus Services. My name is IRENE, and I'm the moderator for this webinar. The other night when I saw our Abbott and Costello comedy scenario, I saw a contrast in my mind, and I thought to include it in our show to contrast that the way we're asking all these questions about what's happening with the IMO 2020 in the bunker industry, in the shipping industry, and I contrast it with the confusion in our industries when we were preparing for IMO 2020 new compliant fuel back then. So here we are now, and who am I and what do I do? Like I said, I'm IRENE, and for anyone who doesn't know me, I'm a bunker fuels broker for the last 21 years, and I manage a company called Prime Bunkersplus Services in Greece, the heart of the international shipping industry, where several reputable ship owner families come from, and who I have the pleasure and the honor to service all these years. I want to thank you for choosing Prime's Bunkersplus webinar, which briefs you on bunkers today by the bunker industry experts who confront the challenges of VLSFO 0.5%, dispersing facts, unveiling myths, and safeguarding ethics. Today's discussion is aimed to help buyers make the right decisions with intelligent solutions and basis knowledge, not so much opinions. We have only 1 hour to discuss very important topics, which if we don't manage to elaborate on, I'd like to inform you that you can register in 2 upcoming virtual conferences, the Maritime Americas for October 21st to 22nd, and the other virtual annual conference of IBIA on November 3rd and 5th, 3rd to 5th. So before we dive into the talks and before I introduce you to the speakers, I think I should define what bunkers are to viewers who might not be aware. It's very simple. Bunkers is a term we use in the maritime industry that refer to maritime fuels, and the way in the past, bunkers were the tanks that ships stored the coal. So nowadays, bunkering is the process of supplying fuels to ships for their own use. In other words, just like your cars need to fuel up, ships need the same, only the process is much more time consuming and complex. Our industry, the bunker industry, is a dynamic with many, many facets, many segments, just like the shipping industry. And its relationships are built on trust and consistency and reliability. Today, I have with me 4 speakers who are all bunkering people, and I consider them very intelligent bunker experts because I've been working with them for many, many years. And I would like to introduce them to you. Briefly, I will introduce all of them all at once, and then we'll go target into each one. Chris Fisher from Brooks Bell, who will talk with us about the new product quality, claims and solutions. Christian KINT, the CEO of OILCHART International, physical supplier in ARA District, and what they do about the problems they face with the new fuel. ALEXANDRA GANA, director of GANMAR Shipping, owner of 5 barges in the Port of Piraeus, and a board member of the Hellenic Short Sea Ship Owners Association. We'll discuss barging in Piraeus with the new product. And finally, someone who for the last 2 decades till today is responsible for making it all possible, the credit manager for buying accounts, Paul Miller, because without money, we all know this very well, the industry won't go round. You will also hear comments from our special guests, MUHTAROДLU, the founder and physical supplier in Turkey, Energy PETROL, speaking about an amazing, in my view, effort to unite the Turkish suppliers in a group enhancing their strength as they are a leading supplier in the Med. We will also hear from Panama support supplier and IBIA board of directors member, TERRAMAR's NICOLAS, VUKELJA, DUQUE, and later on, Nigel Draffin, educator and IBIA's honorary treasurer, about the relevance of bunker education, standards, and ethics. I thought this webinar was necessary for the Greek shipping market and invited you all here to let them know firsthand what I know from working with you. I say this because dealing with clients, traders, and suppliers concerns for decades, I think it's prime time that we enforce a trust between the suppliers and buyers. We must understand we are all in the IMO 2020 and the COVID pandemic together, and we must cooperate. But we have to have knowledge to cooperate. And it's prime time also that the bunker industry talk to the Greek shipping industry and clear the air on some misbeliefs, because there's been a lack of communication. That's what I've seen. For the last 3 years, all the Greek forums topics were about the impending IMO 2020 regulations, and yet no bunker experts were invited to offer bunker information and knowledge. So I think it's time to go and be real now, and let's talk to Chris Fisher. And we thank Posidonia for this time to talk. It's 10 months after the IMO 2020. Chris Fisher, you are a fellow of FIMarEST, if I'm pronouncing it right, the Institute of Marine Engineering, Science and Technology. To me, that says it all. But I have to say more, as you are a keynote speaker today, along with Christian and Paul. You have served as a marine engineer on tankers, sailed as a chief engineer. Later, you were a marine superintendent with Texaco. You became interested in the changes of the quality of marine fuels and even wrote the first technical book devoted to the subject. You joined DNV PS, which had pioneered routine marine fuel quality testing and began a lab in Netherlands, provided and still provide expert opinion in court and arbitration hearings on bunker matters. You've written 4 editions of Bunkers. You were past chairman of the International Bunker Industry Association, and the list of experience could fill up the hour. So now, what do you have to say about the VLSFO 0.5%? We have a question. What quality issues has Brooks Bell had with claim cases in 2020? If you could talk about the contaminant stability, sulfur content, cat fines, flashpoint, and the rest of the other questions you know, and I'll interrupt when you finish them, when I can.
Okay, thanks, Irene. Hello to everybody. First of all, I'd like to say that although I'm talking about quality and claims, it should be remembered that the vast majority of fuels delivered to ships are perfectly fit for use, meet the specifications required, and the money's paid on time. It's only on occasion when things go wrong. Irene's asked me particularly to talk about what's happened in 2020, apart from the thing that nobody wants to talk about, this wretched disease that's chasing us around. But from our point of view, we began the year with quite a large number of claims disputes between buyers, sellers, charterers, ship owners on the sulfur content. Did it or did it not meet the 0.50% maximum required by MARPOL Annex 6? And there were marginal exceedances, and it became rather complicated for some people to get their heads around, because when we test fuels for any characteristic, we have to keep in mind the precision of the test method. Every test that we do, whether it's density sulfur or whatever, has a precision statement. And one lab may have one result and another lab indeed another result, but they may well be both within the precision of the test method. Then we can take an average result and say, well, that's the true result. The problem is this isn't fully recognized in MARPOL Annex 6. So we ended up with a ship owner getting a test just above the limit, a supplier saying, well, it's within the tolerance of the test method, and a whole lot of resampling and retesting and everybody chasing their tails. Fortunately, that seems to have gone away now, and I think suppliers have begun to realize that when they produce fuel, their result before they deliver the fuel should be less than the 0.50 maximum, to be sure when somebody else tests it, they don't get a result above 0.50. And I think that message has got around, and we don't see so many sulfur exceedance claims now. Right from the beginning of January, we did see quite a large number of ships with problems, sludge coming out of purifiers, filters blocking. And this appeared to, I thought initially this may just be to some of the old high sulfur fuels left in the system, and new sulfur fuels, low sulfur fuels, being a bit paraffinic and perhaps chasing out some of these residues from shore tanks, barges, ship's tanks. And I thought it would clear up. To some extent, the problem has reduced, but we still have an issue going on where it seems some fuels don't have a very good shelf life. So they may well go on board meeting the specification for total sediment. But after perhaps a few weeks, they start to disintegrate and release asphaltenic sludge. That combined with problems, what I call cold property problems, pour point in particular, but we're beginning to realize that pour point is not such a good indicator of the temperature at which fuels will solidify. They can precipitate wax at much higher temperatures. And some labs have developed methods for looking at wax appearance and disappearance temperatures, which is quite helpful. Generally, though, if the fuels are stored well above their pour points, they should remain wax-free, if you like. On some fuels more recently, and not just the ARA, but the ARA and some other ports, we've come across fuels with fairly high acid numbers, perhaps just within the specification limit, but unusually high. And on some of those fuels, ships have reported severe problems with fuel pumps and fuel injection equipment. And tests that we've started to perform now suggest that there's some type of waste bioproduct, and it seems to be waste cooking oils and some animal fats. Clearly, these shouldn't be in bunkers, and something has gone amiss in the supply chain. Perhaps someone has been trying to produce biofuel, which didn't quite work out, and what the stuff that remained was found its way into the bunker chain. We're still looking into that. We found a few gas oils that have low flash point, and this may be due to something to do with the COVID virus. We can say, how can you relate the COVID virus to low flash point fuels? But if you look out of your windows, you don't see many aeroplanes flying around at the moment. Nobody wants to go anywhere, and those planes use jet fuel, and the refineries are still producing jet fuel, and they're looking for possibly some outlets. So maybe some of that jet fuel is ending up in bunkers, so it should make the ships go pretty fast, but it may be a problem with regard to flash point. So there are some, in a nutshell, some of the problems that we've come across. we get probably at Brookesbell 3-4 instructions every week on bunker quality matters. But I say keep in mind that there are thousands and thousands of bunkers deliveries around the year, and most of them go without problems. But I think, as Irene said at the beginning, supply chain management, trust, and understanding in the industry needs to be at a top level to try and reduce those incidents of poor quality fuel. Irene, did you have something else?
What I've noticed, a lot of customers we have a lot of problem with the sampling and the testing methods in the supply chain and the delivery process. I'm aware that some engineers, crew, they're not really following the instructions, and maybe even the sample that's being taken isn't really up to par. And what I read in the magazine, in the World Bunkering COVID magazine, with Mr. Peter Mewson, the chemical engineer, who wrote about, if you think about it, only 1 liter is the representative sample that everybody's taking testing from. What can we do? I remember taking a course from you where you said the sample is a continuous drip sample from the very get-go to the very end. I know some engineers that say they don't have time to do that, and so that could be one of the problems. So do you have anything to say about that? I was going to ask Christian KINT later on about that also, and then please feel free to go on about what Brookesbell is doing with the online lab that's your solution.
Okay.
So
yeah, sure. Yeah, sampling has always been an issue in the bunker industry, and I think it always will be. Basically, residual fuels, or VLSFO, is not really a homogeneous product. It is bound to be non-homogeneous, but that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be properly blended. It still needs to be blended and as uniform as possible prior to delivery. But of course, if a fuel is not homogeneous, sampling becomes very, very difficult. Yeah, we do see samples from ships that don't bear any resemblance to suppliers issued samples, and even those two may be not consistent with what we find in the ship's tank. So it's clearly still a problem, and I think really supply chain sampling needs to be perhaps improved, and ship staff reminded that this is vital evidence. They have to take it seriously. They have to find the time to take proper samples. Could
there be IMO could do a suggestion to regulate that part also, that it's mandatory, that there's one way of sampling for every ship, and it could be a rule that this way we could just clear up that matter,
Well, I mean, the IMO introduced through MARPOL 6 sampling, and said sampling should be taken continuous drip and preferably at the ship's receiving manifold. I don't think IMO is the right body to start talking about commercial practice. I believe that should be IBIA and the bunker industry, perhaps the port regulators. Singapore's done a great job with that, and I think other ports could do the same.
I agree with you.
Yeah, just finally on laboratories, Brookesbell don't at the moment have their own fuel testing laboratory. They have a metallurgical lab for examination of broken bits and pieces of machinery, but they're currently building a fuel testing lab, not for routine bunker testing, but forensic investigative testing. Oh. So we will be able to provide the extra tests, the gas chromatography, the mass spectrometry, infrared analysis.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, to help with our investigative work. At the moment, we have to rely on third-party labs. And we hope through that lab to develop some new techniques as well and find better ways of forensically looking at a fuel. So that should be open come the end of the year.
Okay, I'm going to ask this question to you, and then Christian also. The GCMS, that's really not accepted by some suppliers. Am I correct or inaccurate here? I had experiences in the area district where one supplier did not accept my customers' testing in GCMS.
Well, GCMS is if we're talking about bunker quality, the routine tests are covered by ISO 8217 Table 2, and everybody's happy about testing to those characteristic limits. But if we want to find out, they won't tell us, those tests won't tell us whether the fuel has contaminants or whatever in it.
Right, they don't.
So the only way to do that is by forensic investigative testing. So, and then really what the ship owner is trying to say is, well, does the fuel meet clause 5 of ISO? In other words, is there anything nasty in the fuel that shouldn't be there?
And like you said before, fit for purpose is the main.
Yeah.
The fuel is fit for purpose. So you generally believe that the VLSFO 0.5 worldwide, generally, it is fit for purpose.
Of course, yeah. The vast majority of fuels, it's just, things are going wrong here and there, and I can't see any supplier really wanting a claim. I mean, nobody wants a claim on in bunkers. It's such a mess. But I think it's just a bit of lack of control here and there. Things don't go right, and perhaps a little bit more testing. And I mean, Christian will probably talk about, you know, some of the limitations of what he can do in the supply chain.
That would be nice. And so I will introduce Christian now, if you're okay, and then we'll have interaction later on. So Christian KINT, thank you for being with us. The CEO of OILCHART International, one of my suppliers that I've been using for a long time. Very happy with you being here and working with you. One of the longest running independent physical suppliers in the ARA district. Tell us a little bit about what's happening in ARA. We know that there some contaminants were causing some claims, and so you can let us know, and then let us know about biofuels. Oh, you're muted. You have to unmute yourself. You have to press the button on the bottom.
Let me introduce myself. I'm Christian KINT. I started with OILCHART International since about 40 years ago. As a broker with $2,000 more or less, and then we grew up as a trader, and then we became physical suppliers since many years. We are doing also blends ourselves. We have storage tanks, etc., our own barges. So we are now the longest existing independent supplier from the ARA region. So okay, we have gone through a lot of problems the last years, but okay, we managed always to be inventive and to stay alive. And okay, we think that we know something about this. Okay, first of all, as a physical supplier in the ARA region, you have to see that we are buying our products from the majors, the refineries. There are about 5 around here, and also from not also very important, from the blenders, as we call them. The blenders, they are the kind of Vitol, Trafigura, Mercuria, Gunvor. They're importing fuel oil from wherever in the world, and they are blending up to the necessary specifications. If we buy quite a lot from them on the exchange, and if we buy something, we never know who will be the final supplier, because it's a kind of a chain product that the one buys from the other, and it goes so on day by day. And okay, the first problem that we are facing is that we, as a physical supplier, we are not allowed to take samples on the loading point of our barges. So if there is a claim, we have to take the full responsibility for the quality, because the majors and the blenders, they sell on the quality which they have found in the tank, which can be, of course, quite different with the product that we receive, because there can be some lines that are line risk, that product that stays in the line that is contaminating other product, etc., etc. So I will not go in depth for that, but that's the first problem that I'm fighting now for many years, and that hopefully the Port of Rotterdam, they will allow at the end legally to that we can or have to take or check the quality upon loading with the sample. So the next question I have to answer is if the people they do this GCMS test, that whether they are accepted or not. Of course, you have to. I have to say that there are two types of fuels nowadays in the market of low sulfur. These are the paraffinic fuel oils and the aromatic fuel oils. The paraffinic fuel oils is very hard to blend. It's very hard, and if you put them together with the aromatic fuel oils, even on 5%, the stability of the fuel can go completely wrong, and then they are facing problems on board of the ship. Now, how we solve that? We solve that by buying or trying to buy only the aromatic fuel oils, which they are presented in the market. Now, if you do a test, this GCMS test on the aromatic fuel oil, you will see that they are coming out indines, styrenes, and DCPDs. Now, is this something that is not allowed in the fuel oil? Are there chemicals? No, they are not chemicals. Before, my experience with the 380 centistokes was that if you blend these products with the 380 high sulfur fuel oil, you had to lower the viscosity in order to burn this in your engine. You had to heat it up to about 120, 30 degrees more or less before you inject in your engine. Now, with this temperature, it could happen that some styrenes, or say they're making some small fibers, and that they're obstructing the filters, that they are clogging the filters. So nowadays, with the low sulfur fuel oil, the viscosities, they are not anymore to 380 centistokes, they are more to 80, 100, 200 centistoke, 230 maximum. So you don't have to heat up the fuel oil anymore to 130 degrees, but probably to, depending the viscosity, to 80, 19, 100 degrees. So the problem of clogging filters, and I hope that Chris Fisher can confirm that, is not is not existing anymore as it was before. So
maybe later on, Chris could tell us if he agrees with that too.
Sorry, yeah.
You want to touch upon the biofuels? I mean, what you gave us was a very good description of what's happening in the Antwerp, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Antwerp area, because there are claims popping up, and just the fact that at the refinery you can't really test your sample, that's a problem. I'm going to ask Alexandra later if that's an issue for us in PIREST, but later. So.
Now about the bio, what we can see that in the blending products, sometimes they are 3-4%, and if we are blending this gas oil, this with the gas oil, we are coming to 0.5% more or less. But in the ISO 8217 specifications, there is now a parameter with where you can allow FAME or bio till 7% more or less of your fuel oil. Now, since there are certain tank rests from the barge, from the storage tanks, from the lines, it is well possible that by blending gas oil, the FAME content can go to 0.6, 0.7%. So that's above the 0.5%, but this does not affect in no way the quality of the fuel. On the contrary, in fact, it should be better for the environment, and it's more expensive. Now, lately there are some ship owners who have experienced some trials with biofuels, and these trials, they have only take place for fuel oil they have bunkered in Rotterdam. Why Rotterdam? Because Holland, the Netherlands, they are the country where they have a system that if you are putting, for instance, whatever, 5, 7, 10, 30%, there were even ships that have taken as trials 100% biofuels, but okay, I leave that apart. Then you get certain allowances that you can sell to the farmer who has too many cattle, for instance, or to some factories who want to be CO2 neutral. That's a system that is in place in the Netherlands, and that makes that sometimes the biofuels, they are even cheaper than the normal regular gas oil. But that's coming out of the system of regulation and kind of subsidies, which is in fact, I think it's a very good way to do, but it should be applicable in the whole Europe. And there, I think we could move forward with it. Now, there are thoughts that in the Netherlands that they're going to try to avoid this kind of this kind of situation, because the maritime industry is a huge industry, so you can get rid of thousands and thousands of biofuels, and the state cannot subsidize all these 1,000 tons. So it's on the point that okay, we don't know in which direction it is going. Now, another thing important to mention, I think, is that I got today an advice from the Port of Rotterdam that we will need as from the 1st of February 21, we will need, as the barge owners for bunkering, they will need a license for bunkering. And that's a preparation to go to mass flow meters in maybe 22. And to my point that I mentioned before, to take samples on the loading points, tank farms, refineries, etc., etc. So I think that's more or less what's happening in the RIA of my experience in the bunker industry. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very good insight, and I hope the viewers learn something new. I don't think a lot of buyers know this information, and I'd like to ask Chris Fisher, because you mentioned something and we want to know what he thinks of it. And Chris, you now I forgot what it was.
I think it was on the subject of styrene and NDCPD. Yeah, I don't think they are of any particular consequence in. Is
that what it was, Christian?
Yes.
In the VLS, the very low sulfur fuel oils. On bio, I mean, ISO basically says for residual fuels, which we still call VLSFO because there's a degree of residual in there, that they should not contain bio. It shouldn't be blended into the fuel for those fuels. It shouldn't be. But it can happen by accident, and if it happens by accident, it shouldn't be more than half of 1%. So.
One client, a ship owner, asked me the other day, well, he said that some ship owners in Greece are concerned about the jet fuel being in there, being found. And these things, can't they be controlled? I mean, the refineries, aren't they regulated how they're making their product? Well,
I mean, gas oils, going back to the bio just very quickly, of course, if ship owners want biofuels, they can order to the bio distillate grades within ISO. With jet fuels, I mean, people aren't generally putting jet fuel straight into the bunker market. I think what's happening, there's an element of jet fuel getting mixed with marine gas oils. And that if that happens too much, then you get a reduced flash point. Apart from that, I mean, the jet fuel itself is pretty good stuff. But, you know, the blender, the supplier, needs to be aware of the specification and the safety risks. And of course, you've got two problems there. You've got sulfur with respect to MARPOL, and you have flashpoint with respect to SOLAS. And they're both regulations rather than specifications.
If I can...
Go ahead, Christian. Go ahead.
If I can add something, many people... they think that on the refinery you have a valve that is giving a gasoline, and another valve that is giving kerosene, and another valve that is giving gas oil. It is not the fact, of course. You are refining a crude oil, and there are lots of product coming out. And okay, every single gasoline or gasol or jet fuel has to be blended to the right specifications. And it's not the fact that there are a few taps in the refinery that you just get the product that you want to have ready. It's not like this. You have always to blend different products to reach the necessary specifications. And that's very important, I think. And a lot of people, they do not realize that it's working like this.
For sure, for sure. I sell fuel for such a long time, and I'm learning much more right now from you. And I think what's happened all around now with the COVID, we're all kind of like starting to slow down a little bit, and we're starting to think. All along, we're just rushing to get things done, to make sales and support our customers and service them. And the claims come in, and it's just all so hectic that we're not really alert and aware of actual details that you are providing today. And again, I thank you. Should we move on so we don't miss the hour to Alexandra, GANA? And unless you have something else to add, any one of you gentlemen? Okay. Actually, is it? Yeah, no. It's we have to listen to two. We have to listen to two videotapes, if I'm not mistaken. Beforehand, two suppliers that have said something, and then we'll go to Alexandra, because that's what we have said we're going to do. Sorry.
Hi, this is MUHTAROДLU from Energy Petrol Physical Supplier in Istanbul. I am EBA board member. I am also assembly member, reserve board member, and bunker committee chairman for Turkish Chamber of Maritime, who is most affecting semi-official body in Turkish shipping with its 10,000 members. Every company active in maritime sector in Turkey must be member of chamber by law. It's also mandatory by law that all bunker suppliers, bunker barges, terminals must have license by State Oil Authority. In July 2018, we came together under Istanbul Bunker 2020 group for working for new regulation starting in 2020. We talked to all stakeholders, including authorities, ship owners, refineries, producers, terminals, and also arranged several seminars covering all aspects of new regulation. Finally, we got successful transition to 2020 and managed to keep Istanbul's position despite pandemic effect. In fact, we have been working together with authorities, especially customs, for very long years already. And finally, we achieved most reliable, most quality and transparent bunker hub in the world by licensed suppliers and barges. Just to give you a brief idea, all refineries and oil terminals are installed by mass flow meter connected to customs. So you can see how many tons loaded from which shore tanks via which lines into which tanks of bunker barges. Then they are sealed by customs and reported by independent surveyors for each loading. Barges cannot load again before delivering all volume on board. Additionally, all products coming to Turkey are tested and approved by customs, therefore no off-spec products in market. As a result, we have most quality, most reliable and transparent bunker supply hub with no quality quantity claims at all. So you can really say we are a very good example for working together under Chamber of Maritime. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now I'd like to introduce, that was MUSTAFA, as he said, and now we're going to introduce NICOLAS VUKELJA. He's from a supply from Panama, and he has something to say about the bunker licensing and the bunkering situation in Panama.
NICOLAS VUKELJA, TERRAMAR Oil and Services, from Panama, Republic of Panama. About the subject of implementing Singapore standards SX 600 in the local bunker market, it's very important to state that the local authorities need to authorize and request their implementation in our bunker market. Local authorities as Panama Maritime Authorities, Secretary of Energy, and other government authorities. About the start of IMO 2020 in our 4 million metric tons per year in our Panama bunker market, let's keep in mind that since last year in August, we start offering IMO 2020 products for the local and arrivals ship owners. We have all major bunker suppliers in Panama, and some issues in the first month of this year came with the IMO 2020, especially in the blending. But after the first 2 months, it came very stable, the bunker supply in our market. Keep in mind that Panama import all their products, a good part from the Gulf of Mexico, United States, and a small quantity from other parts of the world. All these claims between the bunker suppliers and the ship owners, they were handled case by case. As it's very possible, some issues happens in other ports in the world. Have a nice day.
Okay, that's one of the wonderful things with our industries, that we get to know people from all over the world. So we just covered opposite sides of the world, Panama and Istanbul. We heard from them, and I leave the last for best, the best for last. Best for last, Alexandra GANA, who is the co-sponsor of this webinar also. She runs her family barging business called GANMAR Shipping in FIMarEST, and contracts her 5 barges to our one and only Hellenic Petroleum in ECHO. She is also an executive board member of the Hellenic Short Sea Shipowners Association, along with Greek principals, President Haralambos Simeantonis, George Alexandratos, Stratos Salamanios, Elpi Petrakis, and Vasilis Terzi. They have 500 members. She will let us know more about that. By the way, I will go back to Mustafa and to Nicolas in Panama after she speaks to tie it all in, just so we move on. And one of the main questions for Alexandra also is if she thinks that we could adopt in Perez the Singapore bunkering license and standards, but she will contrast that for us. And then and we have Paul Miller after this, and that Nigel Draffin. So I will give the floor to Alexandra.
Thank you very much. First, I would like to congratulate all people involved in this webinar, which gives us the opportunity to discuss each special bunkering matters under these special circumstances caused of the COVID. So my name is Alexandra GANA. I'm a member of GANMAR Shipping. As she introduced me, I have to say a small word about the Greek Ship Association, Short Sea Shipping. We are the oldest short sea shipping association in Europe, accounting 75 years of uninterrupted operation. We keep a full record of all matters relevant to the industry and provides to our member continuous and reliable information. That means that I'm trying to give you an holistic idea of bunkering in the port of Piraeus. There are about 40 companies, both traders and physical suppliers, that operate in Piraeus, and that supports the fact that Piraeus is still one of the bigger bunkering terminals. Our geographical position plus the fact that we do have competitive prices and good quality of products give us the opportunity to create this bunkering network and sell many great ship-owning companies. During the last years, we have faced many changes due to the international legal standards that we had to comply with. I could mention the major MARPOL implementation of law regarding double-bottom, double-side vessels, which came into force in Greece in 2009, as well as the electronic flow meter requirements under the European and international standards, which set the obligation to have on board Coriometers, which transmit all electronic data within all relevant organizational, governmental organizations. The great last change that we faced at the beginning of this year was, of course, the enforcement of IMO 2020 that ensured that the implementation of the low sulfur limits under Annex 6 of MAPOL. Piraeus high standard port and bunkering procedures follow all international and European standards. First of all, after a vessel is characterized as a seaworthy vessel and gets all seaworthiness certificates, she needs to get another license as a barge vessel. So there is a license that a barge will get from the customs, which characterizes a vessel as a barge vessel and characterizes each tank of the vessel. That means that there is an official certificate which states in which tanks the barge shall carry their products, and also state the exact measurement, the exact quantity at every centimeter of the tank. These certificates also state who is the physical supplier, who is the one who guarantees with a letter of credit the correct procedure of delivery at the custom. Besides, each Greek port, so that happens with the port of Piraeus as well, issues a bunkering license under certain circumstances for each vessel. This license gives us the authority to each vessel to be involved into bunkering procedure at each specific port. For getting all these licenses, you need to meet high standard criteria and, of course, meet all national and international law.
Okay.
Now, regarding, if you want me to compare Singapore port and Piraeus port, I could say that both of the ports do have high standards and high strict requirements. They cover pre-delivery, actual delivery, and post-delivery checks and documentation for the benefit of ship bunkering industry, ship owners, operators, charterers, all suppliers. The Singapore Standard Code of Practice of Bunkering, SS600, is an obligatory code which sets out the best practice for documentation and equipment requirement and verification projects. Most of the requirements that are met are international standard requirements, and most of them are already enforced for bunkering in the port of Piraeus. I mean that I don't believe that bunkering in Singapore follows stricter procedures than bunkering in the port of Piraeus. And I say so because in the port of Piraeus, there is already a requirement, not now, many years ago, for a license for a barge vessel, as I said. Besides, there are also high standards, a requirement in both technical and economical ways for getting a license to be a physical supplier here in Greece, for getting a governmental license to be a physical supplier, of course.
Maybe the difference is enforcement. Maybe the big difference in enforcement. Here, less enforcement. Maybe there it's more enforcement. I don't know. Is it very strict here? Like
I believe that Port of Piraeus is one of the ports worldwide which have these requirements for many years ago. Okay. I believe that all procedures are quite strict here in Greece. The only companies that don't need a governmental license to operate are the trading companies. But come on, these companies are giving and passing exams every day in the market. Every bunkering operation carried out by bunker tankers to ships in both the port of Piraeus and the port of Singapore, of course, follows a bunker delivery process in accordance with the international legal requirements. And that means that the likelihood of a bunker dispute is being minimized.
Okay.
Now, you asked me about the claims. Yes, as you said, I believe that the answer is no, at least it's not anymore. In the past decades, claims regarding quantity and quality was much more than those that are rising today. You can send and find out that even at the beginning of this year, when low sulfur came into force and many claims were arising worldwide, Piraeus was a port that you could say that we did it well. Physical suppliers were ready to provide all clients with good quality products, and the quantity was enough to cover all needs. You know, as I said before, part of the solution of minimizing the quantity and quality claims is the knowledge of receiving bunkers. We can either trust a surveying company who knows to measure correctly, or to educate crew members to receive bunkers correctly, measuring in the right way, knowing what kind of paperwork they need to do, to know when and what they signed. For me, the solution of the problem is exactly at the point that you finish delivering the cargo at the client's vessel.
Very good, very good. And one last question. Do we have MFM systems on all ships? We have meters on our barges?
We have the Coriolis meters, the electronic meters, the last 2 years. We have a problem with this. All barges, all vessels have these electronic meters, but the government hasn't got the right platform for this.
I see. Well, we'll talk to Mr. Plekiotakis.
Actually, the other ministry. It's not the. Actually, it's the other minister. It's not Mr. Plekiotakis.
Sorry about that. Again, knowledge. We have to know. I don't know. I don't know.
Knowledge and trust are necessary. Knowledge and trust.
Knowledge and trust are key words, and resilience to all this. They're all brothers and sisters. All these words. So we have a little. Thank you very much, Alexandra. We have a little video clipping to take us into the next segment, which is credit line, and it's from my friend Paul, just to make him laugh, because he's probably lived this kind of thing.
You owe me room rent.
All right, here's $28.
$28, fine. Just a minute. You owe me 13 weeks at $7 a week, and that happens to be a lot more than $28.
Well, that comes to $28.
Did you go to school?
Yes, sir.
Do you mean to say that you can prove that 7 times 13 is 28?
Well, it's got to be.
If you can prove it, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will give you the room rent for nothing. No, not multiply, multiply. Multiply.
All right. Multiply it.
7 times 13 is 28. Go ahead.
Now, first, we got to put down a 13, right?
Right.
There's a 13.
Times 7.
Times 7.
Right.
7 weeks times 13, right? 7 times 3.
21.
21. 7 times 1.
7.
7. 7 and 1.
8.
And 2 to carry. 28.
Now, wait a minute.
Right. A 3, a 6, a 9.
Just a minute. I will do the adding. Then there'll be no mistake.
Yeah?
All right? All right. That's $28 here. All right? Now,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21.
22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28.
That was for you, Paul. Does it make you feel at home? I can hear you. Unmute yourself. Right. So I'll say something about Paul. Okay, so he's been in the maritime credit business since 1984. Joined MRC Business Information and the Lloyd's List Intelligence became later on. Joined the BOMIN Group in 2009. He has 25 years of shipping and bunker companies, worldwide credit management, and he's our expert. And we already had discussed some questions, so I think I'll just let you speak. And just so you all know, we're very close to the 1 hour. We have about 3 minutes, but we'll go over a little bit. And we're going to cut some other things.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Everybody?
Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, I mean, basically, what I want to talk about here is, well, a couple of things really. How things have changed for bunker credit managers over the last, well, really since the start of this year, and secondly, how buyers can help themselves, quite frankly, in this changing environment.
That's what we need to know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think if we go back, if you look at the start of this year. IMO 2020 was the big thing. Credit managers, we were all convinced that the high fuel prices at the time was going to have a significant impact on credit lines, and of course with the higher prices and also with the expected price differential between the very low sulfur fuel oils and the standard fuels, that there was going to be a two-tier market, and there was going to be you know, there are going to be significant credit issues. That kind of blew away. You know, by March, that was not the big issue at all. By March, the big issue was COVID-19, and so, you know, by that point, of course, the price of fuel was coming down anyway, and no one really expected the slump that followed. And so the paranoia then was, with all these economies going into lockdown, quite clearly demand for fuel, demand for products, demand for goods was slumping at rates we've kind of never seen before. And you can just imagine how credit managers are feeling. You know, we not just me, not just other credit managers, but other people invested in companies too. So, you know, your managing directors, your owners, everyone was kind of feeding off this paranoia of doom, if you like. But we were all worried. I mean, everyone was worried. Everyone was cutting credit lines, and in some instances is chopping some customers from their portfolios back in March. But then, as those months followed, I think we realised that actually shipping was actually far more resilient than anyone had kind of thought before. And whilst demand did fall across the board, we found that rates didn't necessarily follow in that way as well. And, you know, for the liner sector, we saw rates actually improve. And of course, at the same time, it wasn't just the fact that the rates were holding up generally across the industry. I mean, I don't mean for every sector, but rates were holding up, and in addition to that, there was the state financial assistance that was being provided by countries across the globe. That was keeping businesses afloat. That was keeping industries afloat as well. So all of this was calming our nerves, if you know what I mean. So you know, we kind of got through that first part of the year. Of course, there were certain sectors, there were certain companies. I mean, you only have to look at the cruise sector. The car carrying sector saw an absolute slump, and it's kind of hard to see how those two particular sectors are going to get through this year without some severe financial damage to their balance sheets. But you know, the fact is, shipping has been more resilient than we ever thought, and the bunker sector too, you know, to be honest, has been far more resilient. You know, I mean, this industry has seen problems, I would say, this year or over the last 12 months, and I can comment on that afterwards. But generally speaking, I think the bunker industry can hold its head up high, not only because of coping with the COVID-19 pandemic, but getting through IMO 2020 with relatively few issues and handling itself well. So you know, I think this industry has done well, but you know, we're now in October. We are now looking at a much more dangerous period, if you like, in terms of COVID-19. We are seeing greater restrictions across the globe, with, you know, if not mini lockdowns, potentially major lockdowns in many countries. So it's entirely possible that with the spread of this wretched disease, that, you know, we are going to go back to you know, what we experienced in Q2 of this year. So, you know, we're not out of the woods. What's bothering credit managers like me, it's not only the fact that there are industries that are being crippled at the moment. You know, I've mentioned cruise, I've mentioned the car carrying sector is under some pressure. You know, there were other sectors that, you know, frankly, they were under pressure already. So you look at the offshore sector as an example. You know, that's had the most torrid of times over the last few years, and COVID-19 comes along and it just makes it even worse for them. So, you know, we've got all these difficult sectors. or we have some difficult sectors.
And what about the diminishing investors and the bankers? They're less and less.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the banks, they are not so keen on this sector as they were. If you look at the credit insurers, and I'm talking here specifically in the bunker sector, you know, they've seen some big problems. They've seen Henley on. You know, we're currently seeing GP Global, and who knows how that story is going to pan out. You know, I mean, I know for sure, having spoken to credit insurers, how paranoid they are also about this industry. And of course, it's not only that; it's the investors for the companies that we we all deal with and love working with. So, yeah, absolutely diminishing confidence, if you like, in this sector. Not stripped away, but it's diminishing. So yeah, I mean, I think we're in for a difficult time. I think that all of these things have fed into the mindset of credit managers like me. I mean, we're nervous people just by nature, to be honest, and you know, we do react to things, but you know,
of course,
I just think this paranoia that has built up this year, that started with IMO 2020, and then has the consequences from COVID-19, and the issues that have flown out of that. It has just made us much more jumpy than we were.
It's a serious situation. What, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what could buyers do? What would you suggest to buyers? How to, especially small businesses, small and medium-sized ship owners, shipping companies, I should say. What should they do to be careful that they don't lose their credit lines? Because from what I've talked to in the past, and you know, people are not so keen on giving credit lines to people with low assets or no assets, and I would like to hear that.
Yeah, I think you're right to hone in. It is the small and the medium-sized shipping companies that could potentially suffer from reduced credit lines or credit lines being taken away from them from the bunker community. I mean, let's face it. You know, if you're a blue chip company and you know, you look at Greece. I mean, there are blue chip family groups over there. You know, we are never going to be denying them credit. I will never be denying them credit because, you know, we know they're good. But frankly, you know, if you're not in that category, and I think owners and charterers, they need to be a bit honest here about themselves. You know, they may look at their company. You may look at your company and say, yeah, we've got a great company. You know, we've got everything sort of stacks up. We're super. But if your perception in the market, if the market's perception of you doesn't mirror what you think of yourself, you need to be absolutely aware of this. I would suggest if you're an owner now, the best thing you can do is to open up, is to be a bit more transparent about your about the strengths of your company. I would absolutely talk to the credit agencies. You don't have to, you know, even if you talk to the credit agencies, you don't have to give them everything. I mean, obviously you have to be honest. You have to give them accurate and honest information. You don't have to give the credit agencies your financial statements if you're uncomfortable doing that. But what you can do is give a sense. So, you know, you can say, well, look, you know, my company is a ship owner. I've got X number of vessels. The value of my fleet is this. Debt on the fleet is X%. Working capital is fine. Maybe give some evidence regarding that. Maybe you'd feel confident giving your financials directly to the credit agency if they sign an NDA, and that
that's what I do as a broker. I suggest to my clients to be direct with their chief financial officers and the MRC and the credit agencies, or even the supplier's credit department. But because we're running out of time, you have at least 4 points to say, which is fantastic, about talking to journalists, paying your bills on time. Yeah. And what do you think about all that? And if their cash flow is they have a problem with 30 days? Because some of them do have problem. Would a supplier give them 45 days?
Oh yeah. I mean, if I'm an owner and cash flow is not terribly strong, so you can't make your payments on 30 days. The obvious thing to do is have an honest conversation with your supplier to say, look, if you give me 30 days, the chances are I can't pay you spot on. Why not give me 45 days? If you explain your story to a supplier or a trader, the chances are they're going to listen and they'll give you a fair hearing. And it's much.
I have something to say about that. Singapore suppliers, very difficult. We have some customers that need 15 more days, and they don't because their banks want the know your customer and audit the financials, and they're very, very strict. They become much more strict in the last year.
Yeah.
Much more. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's just to have this conversation.
Yeah. Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, suppliers are far stricter now in terms of granting credit, company governance. Yeah, and
banks are telling them that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of inevitable. But if there is more open dialogue, if you can just open up a little bit as a buyer, if you're struggling to get the credit lines that you need, absolutely do it.
I've actually had meetings in offices where I brought the supplier to the company so they can see the building, they can see who these managers are, who the executives, and it has helped. It has helped a little bit. And what do you think about increasing pool of suppliers for these people, for these customers?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, if you are limiting your choices to get your fuel through, you are doing yourself a disservice. So yeah, I mean, definitely try to increase your pool of suppliers. If you're working through a broker, say to the broker, well, can you try and get my name out into the market more to more suppliers as much as you can, because the more credit lines you've got, obviously the more protection you've got in the event of a downturn.
Right. Whoever's listening, that really is an answer. We have to go on to Nigel's part now, because it's 1 hour and 11 minutes or something like that. And we have to go to Nigel Drafton's part now. And I want to thank you, Paul. You can have some time
for organizing
later. Thank you for doing this and waiting and everything. So let's see now. Nigel Drafton, an educator, an IBIA honorary treasurer. We asked him about education and delivery standards and what he thinks about uniform bunker license being integral to delivery worldwide. And we have a video that he sent us, which I'd like to play now.
Good day. My name is Nigel Drafton. IRENE has asked me to talk to you about the education of people in the bunker industry, about delivery standards, and about licensing. Well, the first thing I'd like to say is that the most effective way to bunker a ship is where both the receiver and the deliverer understand their responsibilities, and they work to mutually agreed procedures. Effective regulation, effective licensing, communication, and respect for your counterparties are all part of the mix. Now, the fuel buyer and the fuel seller have to get their part of the deal agreed and in place well before the commencement of the delivery. And the best way to get this done is to make sure that all the parties are properly trained, and that means education. Now, the International Maritime Organization has published guidelines into the best practice for bunker suppliers, the best practice for purchasers or users, and the best practices for the coastal states. There is also something we call the Joint Industry Guide, published by a number of stakeholders to address bunker deliveries. Purchasers and fuel users are recommended to take note of it. The title is The Supply and Use of 0.5% sulfur marine fuels, published by the Joint Industry Project in July last year. It is available to download from the IBIA website and was compiled with input from many industry associations, including IPECA, OCIMF, the Institute of Marine Engineers, Science and Technology, CMAC, IACS, and IBIA. And it was to make all aware of the particular issues with 0.5% sulfur fuels. There are many other guides available, but those mentioned above are the result of discussion and cooperation from all sectors of the industry. The Bunker Industry Association has a series of online training modules, which is available for members and non-members alike and cover a wide range of topics. Now, the content of these modules has been, we say, peer reviewed, and it is independent of any commercial interest. IBIA also provides courses specific to the requirements of the Singapore Maritime Port Authority, which are held classroom-based in person in Singapore. Further advice on the technical issues can be found in the guidance published by CMAC, Working Group 7. You'll find this on the CMAC website on topics related to both technical and operational issues. When it comes to licensing, IBIA is a supporter of licensing, as engaging with ports, suppliers and buyers. We are not a regulatory body and would not choose to issue or oversee any licensing arrangements. Whilst there is a common purpose, the disparate resources, the different jurisdictions, and the different responsibilities in ports around the world would mean we will not find a one-size-fits-all solution. What we hope to find is a framework that can meet the needs of the large hub ports, yet can be adapted to work in most ports worldwide. I'm very happy to discuss any of this further with you. Thank you very much.
So whoever again is watching us, they can see how organized we are in this industry. We have guidelines from the IBIA standards, the ISO standards. We definitely promote that we're very serious business people. And today we heard from the sales end, the financial end, the supplier end, the technical end, and the operational. And I'm very proud and happy that you all did make time out of your busy schedules. And I hope the people that are watching us realize how important and valuable experience and knowledge are. I'm not saying that I know it all, but by knowing some things, we can actually make the correct decisions. And going forward after COVID and all that, there's no really big room for trial and error. I really believe that we should take the time and look and read and be knowledgeable and then go forward. I'd like to hear perhaps from Christian first, any last closing remarks? Try to keep it to 30 seconds, each one of you. We'll go to Christian, Chris, Alexandra, Paul.
Okay, what I wanted to say that as physical suppliers, we are well aware that we have a very big responsibility to bring the ships from a port to another port and to move goods worldwide around. And we realize that, and we do all our efforts. We put all our efforts to do that in the best way with the less claims as possible. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for saying that. Chris Fisher?
Yeah, in conclusion, I'm sure the bunker industry will go on and on and on. There will be issues. We're dealing with complex materials, but I'm sure the good suppliers, if you're a buyer, look for your good suppliers, look for the supplier that's willing to discuss things with you. Perhaps some easing of terms and conditions of sale may make it a little bit more balanced. Thank you.
Very good point. Very good point. Alexandra. You're muted. Unmute.
Sorry about that. As I said, overregulation, I don't feel that it's the solution in any kind of problem. There is a legal frame worldwide and criteria that follows all international law that could give the solution. We only need the implementation, the knowledge and trust, as we said.
Okay, we all agree. Very good. And Paul?
Final comment really is to the buyers. You know, my message to you is just open up a little bit, raise your profile and be proactive in terms of getting the positive message about your company across to the market, because that eases the paranoia in the minds of credit managers like myself. One of the things I wanted to mention earlier is I think it's a good idea to create a credit memo for yourself. So, you know, just a small document, it doesn't have to be large, that you can provide to the credit agencies or the insurers or other interested people in the market. I think that would serve you well. I'd be happy to help if you want me to distribute. You know, if any owners out there want to create something, I'm happy to do it if it helps.
That's a great offer. And by the way, for our viewers, all of our speakers will be, their contact details will be given to you through a newsletter that we are sending, or you can take our contact details after the last slide, where you can jot it down, and through our office, we can connect you with these people. That's what brokers do. We connect, we bridge the supply chain. And I wanted to say that we have you know, for PetroSpot, we have for all the viewers, they're giving a 25% price discount for delegates that are watching. At the end of this webinar, we'll have a slide for them also. Oh, there it is right now, so somebody could jot it down. I hope that everybody who was watching learned something new. You met very important bunker people. We'd love to have your feedback. We could do this again if you request it, and we'll be much more organized. This was very last minute. In 4 days' time, we put it together, literally working around the clock to just get the technical and the people together. But we had more people in mind, and a lot of people wanted to talk, but in 1 hour for the Posidonia wasn't enough. So we went to one hour and 20 minutes. I hope that everybody really enjoyed it, the way I enjoyed having everybody here on my portal, I should say. Thanks for the co-sponsors. Thanks to the speakers. The co-sponsors are named down on the slide presentation here. And any questions, just contact us. I want to wish to all my speakers here today and the ones that sent the videos, which the videos weren't so clear, but next time we'll get them all better. I want to thank you very much, and stay healthy, happy, and always look to the good, the way you have. Aye, aye, captains and captain.